My name is Brian Mullin, and I'm the program manager of the Youth on Stage program here at the All-Stars Project. And I've been working with the All-Stars first as a volunteer for the past 5 years. I'm trained as a theater director and also a playwright and an actor. I did my undergraduate degree at Yale in theater, and then got a master's degree at Oxford in England studying Shakespeare. And so at the time that I finished all those 6 years of really studying theater very academically and I was really immersed in that. I knew that what I most cared about, what I really wanted to do, was to create a kind of theater that I didn't even know if anyone was doing this, which was a theater that would bring together people who don't usually go to the theater, because for whatever reason we could talk about economics and social class and all these things, but theater-going audiences, certainly in America, are a very narrow group of people for the most part. And as someone, I consider myself to be a political person, someone who is actively engaged in social change and trying to make the world a better place. Usually the response of theater to that sort of thing is to have a play about why the war in Iraq is bad, but the only people who go to see it are people who already think that. That's the experience that I was having a lot of the time, and I was getting very frustrated, and it seemed like a very pointless thing to do. And I was very lucky when I moved to New York to happen upon the All-Stars and the Castillo Theater on the internet. And I wrote to Dan Friedman, and I came in here to the 42nd Street Center right in the first few months that it was open. And I learned about Castillo and the All-Stars' 25-year history of not just doing performances that had something important to say, but more importantly, the way that the theater is organized and that the program is organized is very political, because it's bringing together people from many different types of communities who don't normally come together, and it's independently funded. And what they are doing is what many, I think, theater and arts organizations say they want to do, in the sense that the audiences and the volunteers that we have here come from all different economic strata, all different races, sexualities, backgrounds, and different levels of whether they're experienced in theater or not, you know. And I happened to come in right at the time that Youth on Stage, the youth theater, was starting. And so I was a volunteer in the very, very first semester that we ever had of classes, and free theater classes for young people. And eventually we've been able to assemble a larger and larger faculty of people like Annika, who you just talked to, who have degrees in theater and graduate degrees and have worked at theater festivals and regional theaters all over the country, but who also are people who care about volunteering their time and coming in to teach the young people. And so I went on and I directed a number of shows here along with Dan Friedman, and then came on as the full-time manager of the program in 2006.
So it seems that you've been interested in theater from a very young age.
Yes. I've done plays since I was very, very young, performing in my backyard and directing all the other kids.
Well, can you give us some sense of how big Youth on Stage is, like how many plays?
Well, Youth on Stage, I think, has done 16 productions in the past 5 years. 16 plays. Is that right? I think that's right. Internet, if I got that wrong, I'm saying I think it. 16 productions, I think, and a number of hip-hop cabarets, which is our annual show that combines rap and spoken word and song and dance for the young people to speak out about issues of the day. And we've done something like 14 or 15 semesters of our free conservatory program. So really, Youth on Stage has both a training element where the young people train for 9 weeks, getting a really top quality professional theater training program taught by very experienced teachers, and they come in and do a number of weeks of classes, and then when they graduated from that, which is very, very hard work to get all the way through it, they're eligible to be in the productions that we put on here. We put on lots of different productions throughout the year. Sometimes they're plays that have already been written. Sometimes they're plays that are not written when we start, and they're not written when we start, and the young people create them through improvisation and writing them collectively together. Other times, like in this festival, this Young Playwrights Festival that we're just finishing now, we've been working with young writers to express themselves as playwrights. People like William Santos, whose play Coming of Age you guys are going to see, never thought of himself as a writer, was not a writer. We did a workshop with him over the summer, and this is his first play. And it's really quite amazing to me that he gets a chance to discover the potential that he has to write something. He's not qualified, other than working with us. He's never studied playwriting, but he had something powerful to say, and he got a chance to not only write that, but then to see other people take that and realize it in its very earliest form here on our stage. And hundreds and hundreds of people have already come to see it here at 42nd Street, thanks to the incredible team of All-Stars people who are able to get the word out and contact other people, and donors who can give money, and people who've bought tickets. And I think, you asked how big it is. So in a sense, to me, that's very big, and that's a huge amount of growth in 5 years from just having very small classes to now every year, we have dozens and dozens of kids who graduate from the training program. We were able to put on 5 plays in this festival with 5 directors who are all volunteering their time. Those are all people that we've met in the last year or two for the most part. The producers are all volunteers, the technical staff are all volunteers, and there's something like 18 or 20 young people who are acting in the show. So it's quite an astronomical degree of growth, in my opinion, and will no doubt continue to grow.
Exciting. You mentioned bringing in people who often are a part of theater goers. I imagine you mean that both from a performer and audience standpoint?
You mean, yeah, what we're doing, I think the American theater really needs to be revolutionized. I think I used that correctly. In a lot of ways. For a number of the reasons that I say that, I think the audience that goes to attend theater is a relatively closed group of people, and most theater organizations, when they talk about audience outreach or whatever, they're sort of thinking about it in a very we'll bring more kids from high schools into the audiences at the matinees to see the plays that we're doing, which I think is fine and wonderful. But what we're trying to do is have a much more immersive and experiential approach, so that we're saying, we just don't want high school kids to come to see our plays. We want them to try out improvising. We want them to try working on the tech, being on the house staff, and not just young people, but any kind of person who wants to work with us will work with us, whether they're skilled or unskilled. And it's that mix that's very interesting, so that you have people like me who've been studying theater for the past 10 years, working with volunteers who are interested in trying it out. And it's that mix, both of the adults and the young people, that really makes it a dynamic place. And we don't spend any money on advertising our shows, yet we have full houses all the time. And so people don't relate to our theater as, a commodity that they read about in the New York Times and they think is going to be entertaining, and they're going to pay $100 to go see it. Instead, they come to our theater because they have a relationship. They were met on the street. They have been a donor. Their kid was in the All-Stars Talent Show Network. They're a community group that has a long association with us. They're a volunteer, any number of ways in which they learned what we're doing, and they became part of our community. So our audiences, our donors, our volunteers, our young people, we're this ever-expanding community. And that makes, I think, some of the most interesting performances at 42nd Street don't even happen on the stage. They happen when audiences walk in and are greeted by an all-volunteer house staff that's showing them where to go, and they happen in our rehearsals when the young people are getting here and warming themselves up and moving from room to room and having interactions with volunteers and donors none of whom these people, even though they all live in the same city, would ever meet in any other context. And I think that whole larger performance is inextricably linked to the work that we do on the stage. And so in a sense, the stuff that's actually on the stage is this tiny tip of the larger community performance that's going on, supporting it.